Okay, let me welcome you all, first of all, to what is going to be the first race of the WRS F1 Championship. This is the Grand Prix of Monaco, of course, the one and only. For those of you that joined us in qualifying yesterday, you'll know that the winner of Q1 was GTP-WRS, otherwise known as Bart. He will be starting on pole position. So, the starting grid will be in pole position GTP-WRS with his fast lap in Q3 of 1 minute 9 flat. In second place we have Twissi, third Tam Hablo, fourth Gunas, fifth Spurgey, sixth Ghost Driver, seventh Tidgney, eighth WRP, ninth WGE, 10th GM Matthew, 11th Rocket, 12th Dr. Watson, 13th Jammy, 14th Calcifer, who was a pre-qualifier, and 15th we have RPH. I should also mention that WGE was also a pre-qualifier. We had one other pre-qualifier who was Racing World, who unfortunately didn't quite have a fast enough time to make it in. You may also notice that Gazzy Boy is not in because his qualifying time was not quite quick enough, and sadly we didn't have enough people for two separate grids. So as sad as it is for this event, we have had to eliminate a couple people due to their qualifying times, but hopefully in the future events, if we get enough people, we can run two separate different grids and get everyone in there. Anyway, I hope you're excited for this race. It's going to be a cracker. I'm excited for this race. Don't forget, of course, that the races today will... the top 6 are forced all to use the racing soft tyres because that is what they qualified on in the final qualifying session. The rest of the grid can choose whether they want to start on racing softs or racing hards. Everyone must use both a set of racing hards and a set of racing softs at some stage during the race. Also worthy to note that each driver has a limit of a maximum of 2 sets of racing softs. So that's the option tyre, I guess, the racing softs. You can only use 2 sets of racing softs. Obviously as many sets as racing hards as you like. I suspect we're looking at somewhere between 2 to 3 pit stops to make during the race. I've been getting various feedback as to how much fuel is needed, varying between somewhere around 175 litres all the way up to about 250 litres. So we'll see how much people put in, but potentially somewhere around 100. Of course, the cars in Gran Turismo start with only 100, whereas in normal F1 there is no refueling, so that's a bit of a twist for this particular race compared to the actual calendar. However, it is the full 78 laps, so in that respect we're going for full realism. Alright, so here we go. The race is about to kick off. I'll find our race leader, GTP-WRS. Wish good luck to everybody racing. So the starting procedure for the race, the drivers will come out on track after the race starts, after the race countdown finishes. There'll be then a single formation lap where the drivers will get into the correct positions and then enter their grid places on the starting grid. Just like in F1, you know, they do a lap and then end up on the grid at the start. And then the race will start exactly on 3 minutes. So we'll hope that everyone is in their grid positions and ready on the 3-minute mark. And then exactly on 3 minutes, the race will begin. And here we go. GT Planet WRS F1 Championship, first race of the season, the Monaco Grand Prix, is just about to get underway. Our very own GTP Pasm will be on pole position for this race. A word to our sponsors and hosts, 3D3 Racing, for hosting the lounge. The specifications for the car were obviously set, so you couldn't somehow get less weight or more weight or anything like that. You had to have a specific specification. But tuning to the cars was allowed. Each driver tunes however they like. There were some recommended tunes put up on the thread there. If anyone wants to have a look at what those tunes exactly were, then feel free. The information, or the link to the information, is in the stream information there, so be sure to go have a look. There were some tunes posted, but by no means were they forced to use those. I think quite a few people did use tunes based on the ones provided. Well, I can tell you now that our pole position racer Pasm, he's been doing a lot of practice on the racing softs, so his tune is based around those softer tyres. And he says he set up his transmission just with a shorter second gear there. Looks like we're just heading into the grid positions. The camera angle clearly is not designed for this part of the track. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Race starts on 3 minutes on the clock. There you go, that's a decent angle. I'll switch to Pasm as the race about to start. 10 seconds, here we go. And we have a green light. Twissy immediately gets a good start in the inside line there, although Pasm managed to hold his first place. Looks like WRP has managed to find a place on Tidgney, halfway down the pack there. And Spurgey has dropped down into 6th place, with Ghost Driver up in 4th and Gooners in 3rd. Damage is on. The drivers will have to be careful with the walls and things like that, but it is on lights, so it will repair itself over a short period of time. We go through the first chicane there, and then down through Piscine, or heading towards the Piscine here. Of course, this area is the toughest part of the track compared with the real-life counterpart, with the walls being so narrow there, whereas you normally just get a normal chicane section in the real-life version. Let's have a look from the middle of the field here. WRP, who has found himself one extra position from the start there. Let's bring the map up. Pasm's making himself a nice gap ahead of Twissy. Bit of a gap behind Twissy before Gooners. Then there's a few guys there. Dr. Watson has dropped back a little bit. Perhaps he had an incident there. I didn't manage to catch that. Let's have a look on the timings board here. After one lap, Dr. Watson with a 126 compared to Pasm's 113, so he must have had some sort of incident or be really held up by traffic there. Pasm now with a 1.5 second gap between himself and Twissy. The gap between Twissy and Gooners about the same, 1.5 seconds or so. Ghost Driver's got a really good first sector there. You can see the gap between him and Gooners is not as much. Let's take a look down in the middle here, where there's some intense battling going on by the looks of things. Here we go, Tidgney's just lost a bit of ground on WGE. He's dropped a couple positions. After just losing out on Q3, he finished 7th in Q3 with, I believe, Tam Habler, who just knocked him out of Q3 there. GTP Rocket, currently in a battle with Calcifer and Jammy here in 11th place. You can see the gap really opening up now from Pasm and Twissy between the rest of the guys here. Gooners will be looking to make up as much of that gap as possible, of course. We can see the tyres that people have started on. WGE has started on the racing hards. Same with Tidgney. GM Matthew also on the hards. And RPH also on the hards. Everyone else is on the softs. Looks like Twissy has closed the gap here on Pasm. Let's have a look at the splits. You can see his Sector 1 was 0.2 faster than Pasm there. Gained a bit of time. Coming in through the chicane there. You can see Twissy's still pretty close up behind him. Probably just enough space that he doesn't get too much dirty air. I'm told that the dirty air is actually quite an issue on this track. And given that there's no real slipstreaming opportunities and no DRS, which is a big thing obviously in F1, although this track doesn't make best use of it. The straight here, the start-finish, the only DRS zone. And obviously no such thing exists in Gran Turismo, so limited to just driver skill to make that pass, if at all. Ghost Driver here currently holding off Tam Hablo and Spurgey in a little three-way battle there for 4th place. Spurgey at the back, and you can see WRP is not too far behind him. He'll be looking to close some of that gap, although Spurgey is of course known to be extremely quick. Let's take it back to the back of the pack here, where Dr. Watson has managed to close the gap a bit on RPH. He's running slightly better splits here in 2nd sector, half a second up in that 2nd sector, and he'll be looking to try and make the overtake. WGE, of course, WGE, one of the pre-qualifiers. He managed to come up about halfway up the grid in his pre-qualifier, though. Of course, another Division 1 gold driver here. He can be extremely fast. We've seen him beat Twissy in the past in some special events. And Tidgney just behind him. About a second or half a second gap there. Let's have a look at the splits as we come round. With the leaders having done 8 laps now, they're on their 9th lap. Calcifer defending hard from Matthew, who's just behind him here, as we come through the hairpin, back down the hill. Let's head back to the front of the field here, where GTP Pasm is still holding off Twissy. He's still got a bit of a gap there, but Twissy hanging on for sure. Their splits very similar. Twissy there 0.05 less, so almost identical Sector 1 split there. Current gap is a second and a half though, so Pasm still hanging on to that lead pretty well. Let's have a look at the tyres. Already used about a quarter fuel. That's 25 litres of fuel burnt by Pasm in 1st place, and about 25, maybe a third of the tyres worn off there. I think these cars handle quite well in the tyres as they wear down. They're still pretty manageable, so we'll see how long these guys hold on to the soft tyres. maybe looking at 20 laps on the softs, and then maybe somewhere closer to 40 laps, I don't know, 40 or 35 laps on the hards. We're watching Gunas right now. Limited F1 experience. He says he's only raced it really when the WRS goes to an F1 event about 3 times or so. So he's had limited position. Just had a position change there. Apparently Tidgeny up to 8th. I think Tidgeny was still in 8th. Let's take a look at WRP here, who's broken well clear of Tidgeny. Looks like Tidgeny must have made a mistake or something, because they were fairly close together, I believe. He'll be looking to catch up with Spurgey still. Spurgey still just behind Tam Hablo, Dr. Orp there. Spurgey actually started Gran Turismo on Gran Turismo 5. That was his first Gran Turismo. Uses a Driving Force GT. He's the perfect example of the fact that spending hundreds and hundreds of currency on a good wheel isn't necessarily, you know, going to make you faster. The Driving Force GT, of course, one of the official wheels for Gran Turismo, is one of the cheaper ones on the market. But as we all know, Spurgey is exceedingly fast on this game, and that's the one that he uses, so you know, your wheel choice isn't everything in this game, that is for certain. We're getting our first pits here, it looks like. These guys pitting at the same time. Him and Tam Hablo both making a pit there on lap 15. Looks like they're going on to the second set of racing softs here. Let's see how much fuel they take. So it looks like he's taking a bit. Tam Hablo getting his fuel in now. He gets out ahead of Spurgey. Spurgey will be a bit disappointed about that. Both of them put in a very small amount of fuel down. We've got another pitter here. Who's that? Jammy in the pits now as well. So these are the first few guys to come into the pits. Let's take a look at the tyres on Pazum, who's still our race leader. It's about 50% on the tyre front. He's still going. Calcifer just coming out of the pits here. He needs to be watched out now because he's... What Calcifer is it? That'll be Jammy, I guess, actually, won't it? So some of these guys now lapped traffic in some places. WRP up to 4th position due to the pits. Yeah, it looks like the tables have gone wrong. WRP's actually on lap 18. He's just ahead of Calcifer and Spurgey. I think he's in 4th place or 3rd. It's quite difficult to tell. My leaderboards have gone wrong. Hold on a second. Not totally sure what's gone on there. I can confirm though that WRP is immediately behind Ghost Driver in terms of positions. Looks like he has now pitted though. Of course he started on the softs. Let's see if he takes his second and last set of softs or a few moves onto the hards now. A quick shout out here. WRP, of course, one of the founding members of 3D3 Racing, the guys who are hosting all of our WRS racing at the moment. You can see after WRP's pit, Spurgey is now right behind him. Let's have a look at the tyres though. Oh, and WRP's just hit the wall there. That is most unfortunate. Just coming out of Portier, looks like WRP hit the wall and Spurgey has snuck through. Even a couple guys may, and someone span there. Who was that? That was WGE, spun in the chicane. He'll just wait for a couple of guys to come through here and sneak out in front of Calcifer, who actually makes the pass. And Tam Hablo there, looks like he span out on the exit of chicane. So a couple mistakes now. These guys on the fresh tyres. There'll be cold tyres still. And I think a lot of guys are worried for the cold tyres. The car really gets a bit twitchy on the colds, and we've already seen 3 guys spin out on lap 1 of the cold tyres. So really need to just take a lap to, you know, warm them up and just take it easy for that extra lap. Looks like WRP lost a position there to Spurgey, who has also made the pit, but his tyres were actually slightly older, so WRP was in a good strong position until he made that mistake, so he'll be frustrated about that. He isn't actually in 13th position. He's actually in 7th position, I believe, just ahead of, or just behind GM. So he's in 8th, I believe. Calcifer, you can see my leaderboards have messed up for some reason, so that's why it's telling me that it's that position. That's quite frustrating, actually. So right now our race leader has actually changed to GTP Ghost Driver, who has not yet made a pit. GTP Pasmin, 2nd place, having pitted. Gooners also has made a pit. Twissy also has made a pit. Gooners has made his way past Twissy, so it looks like Twissy may well have taken more fuel. By the looks of it, Gooners made a very quick pit, probably putting in the minimum amount of fuel. 15 litres you can put in without spending any extra time from the tyre change. So either Twissy put in a larger amount of fuel and Gooners made the pass during the pit stop, or else Twissy also made a mistake on the cold tyres, but that's less likely because it's Twissy, let's be fair. Ghost Driver in the pits now for the first time, which means that Pasm takes the lead back. Twissy into 3rd, Gooners in 2nd position. Twissy's tyres a bit fresher, and as I said, he's got a bit more fuel, so there's kind of an offset there. Gooners will be a bit lighter, but obviously slightly more worn tyres. Pasm in 1st place. There is a very small gap now between himself and Gooners, although Dr. Watson is lapped traffic, so he will be needing to mind out the way of the guys coming through here, as this is quite a close battle. Let's see if Gooners can make it through the traffic here. Dr. Watson should be allowing them through. Bit of smoke there. Looks like Dr. Watson just slowed up to allow Gooners through. I think he locked up the tyres in doing so. That probably didn't help Twissy trying to get through there. Let's have a look at Twissy. He gets round. There we go. Dr. Watson just makes way for those guys. So well done to Dr. Watson, just for a good positioning on the track to allow these guys to maintain their battle. But Gooners has lost a bit of ground. It looks like Pasm made a very easy pass around him, because these guys were almost right up against each other's bumpers as they came down the hill past Casino and into Mirabao, and it looks like Pasm just got a very good pass through Dr. Watson, and the other guys got held up just a second, but it was enough to allow those guys through. And who have we got fighting over there? Here we go, Spurgey and Ghost Driver in a very close battle as we come up the hill here. Beau Rivage. Will Spurgey make the pass? They're side by side coming round the corner. Over past Casino, and Spurgey just sneaks down the inside line. Neck and neck. Spurgey, of course, has that inside line. Side by side. Going into the chicane. Ghost Driver gets the inside line. Spurgey allows him a bit of space. Probably gets a better run out of the run off there. Coming out through Portier now. Exit is paramount for the longer straight here. And it looks like Ghost Driver just managed to defend his position, but that was some extremely close racing there. It's so difficult to go side by side in the narrow sections through this track. Well, the whole track is narrow, but that was some intense driving there. A miracle that they both came out facing the right way, to be honest, but that's some great driving by both guys there. But Ghost Driver successfully defending 4th position. Best lap still so far is Twissy. Looks like Twissy has actually made a better lap than Pasm's previous at a 1:9.466. Of course, they won't be pushing anywhere near as hard as qualifying. They're about a second off the best lap from qualifying. They'll be wanting to save those tyres as best as they can. Gooners has said that he would like to finish 3rd, so currently he's doing a very good job. He's holding off Twissy, which is by no means an easy thing to do. We all know how fast Twissy is, so he is doing a great job holding on to 2nd. As they come up the hill here, Gooners, I think, just coming up to where Jammy is. Yep, so they're just up in Casino at the moment. Jammy, of course, lap traffic. He'll be looking to make way for both Gooners and Twissy here. Let's have a look if this goes cleanly. Just coming in through the hairpin. Jammy will need to mind out the way. Now is a perfect time. You can see he moves over to the right hand side and just slows down to let these guys through. That's great work from Jammy. These guys are doing a really great job of letting the faster lads through here. Twissy hot on Gooners' heels here. Gooners, that's a funny word. Someone is in the pits. Who's that? Looks like it's Tam Hablo in the pits at the moment. He's on the racing softs now, about just over 50 litres of fuel. I think he was one of our racing hard guys from the start of the race. So he's moved on to the softs now. Let's hope he's put in practice, because these cars do respond quite differently on the hards and the softs. Some guys even saying it was harder to drive on the softs than the hards, but I guess you get those faster lap times. He'll need to be careful, of course. He's on cold tyres now, and we've already seen a few guys make mistakes. WRP being one of them in that area right there, coming out of Portier, or just coming out of the chicane and down the hill. I'm not sure exactly where he made the mistake, but any of those slow sections you can easily just spin the rear wheels like crazy. But it looks like Dr. Orp, Tom Hablo, has just come out behind GM Matthew, who's currently in 9th position. Again, remember, WRP is above all of these guys. And looks like this is some close stuff right now. We've got 5. Okay, RPH is lap traffic. He gets out the way of all of those guys, but we've got 5 drivers in close competition here. Rocket currently in 7th position. Let's have a look at the splits. So Rocket is in 7th. About a second behind him, Tidgney. GM Matthew right on Tidgney's heels. Behind him, GM Matthew there. And Tam Hablo right in behind him. And lap traffic behind those guys. Let's have a look at this battle in full view. Looks like GM Matthew might have just made a move there. He actually slipped ahead. These guys are side by side. Tam Hablo just slows down to let him in as we come into Tabac there. Looks like GM Matthew made a pass using the slipstream in the tunnel. Of course, we know that is one of the fastest sections of the track. Spurgey is now on the hards though. And he's got a full 100 litre. He's got a full tank here, so he'll be on the slower laps now. Of course, one of the tactics is to run your fuel down as low as possible in the early pits. Let's say you're making a 3-stopper and you're estimating at adding 100 litres of fuel. You're better off adding 15 litres in the first 2 stops, so you've got 30 litres. And Gunas has just made a mistake. He would not be happy about that. Twissy makes the pass into 2nd. And GTP Pazam, has he got the fresh tyres? He's got quite low on fuel now. Just going past more traffic here, coming through the tunnel. Rocket should make a move over to one side. We'd like to see that. Looks like Pazam's just stuck in traffic a little bit here. But as I was just saying, it looks like Pazam has set a new fastest lap of the session so far with a 1 minute 9.282. Rocket just goes into the pits there. Had some sort of issue. I think he's actually behind Dr. Watson. I think he's behind Dr. Watson. He is. So actually, WGE's in 14th, Dr. Watson in 13th. I don't understand what's going on with the leaderboards here. They're seriously glitched out. Doesn't make my job any easier. I've got to try and figure out where everyone is depending on their times on the boards. But it looks like WGE has had some kind of crash or something, because he's dropped right down the field. At this stage, we're going to do a quick shout out to the very first attendees. The first ever race in the online events. Of course, the WRS time trials have been going for a long time, but the first ever online event that was held on the same, the official GTP online events. We're going to do a quick shout out to the members of that race. So we've got WRP himself, obviously one of the founding members. We've got Hydro, another founder member of the 3D3. The guys who host the online events. The Gravitron, I believe. He is the third of the 3 founding members of 3D3. If you're wondering where the name 3D3 comes from, by the way, all three of these guys were in Division 3 at the time, so and there was three of them, so 3 Division 3, that's the basis of the name 3D3, and I think that's what they founded on. All of those guys having been promoted since, so you know, they're all pretty quick now. Anyway, so we've got WRP, Hydro and Gravitron, T13R, Lefty Right, Mill RSVR, Waffles, SC Builder, and I think that was it in the very first ever online event, so thumbs up to those guys. They have paved the way for awesome events like this over a year down the line now. I think we're coming up to 200 years. Coming up to 2 years now, I think. Looks like Tidgney has gone past WRP, same as Spurgey, and Spurgey just going past some traffic there. So it looks like WRP's dropped a few positions whilst in the pits. He's obviously on the fresh tyres now. He'll be not wanting to repeat his mistake of spinning on the cold tyres. He's moved on to the racing hards with just a bit of oversteer coming round the hairpin there. This thing is not easy drive on the cold tyres, that is for certain. We've already seen a few guys make the mistake of pushing just a bit too hard on those tyres. Looks like Pasm is in the pits currently, along with GM Matthew. He is also in the pits, so both of those guys in the pits at the moment. Will Ghost Driver manage to make a pass on Pasm here? Ghost Driver just coming onto the start finish. Pasm coming out here. Let's see if he can make the pass. This is going to be close. Looks like he's not quite made it. Ghost Driver just coming out behind Pasm after the pits. If you're wondering what some of these alien drivers do as a day job, of course, unfortunately, as it is, we can't all just race Gran Turismo and get paid to do so. I wish that was the case. Tidgney here is a systems analyst. I believe we've got a couple IT specialists on the field. A couple students. A couple of these guys are only sort of 15 or 16, I believe, so obviously a couple guys still at school. Tidgney getting a bit of oversteer. Just coming around the hairpin there. I think the only thing that's wrong at the moment is WRP should be lap 49 with Tam Hablo. So these guys are in a battle right now. Here we go. Tam Hablo up and behind Ghost Driver. Ghost Driver on extremely old tyres here. He is going to have to pit right now because these guys are going a lot quicker than him, despite the fact that he is a lap ahead. Tam Hablo actually being held up. Ghost Driver should be coming into the pits. There he is, into the pits, and followed closely by Tam Hablo, which means that WRP moves up a position. Where's Tidgney on the track? Here we go. Right. So WRP currently in 5th place, closely followed by GM Matthew, who is himself closely followed by Tidgney. You can see them all coming through the hairpin just there. Spurgey not too far behind. Let's see if we can figure out the splits. WRP. God, this is so difficult. Right, that's right. So Ghost Driver is in 4th, WRP in 5th. And these guys are in a close battle here. Let's see if we can get a shot of this. Ooh, here we go. Tidgney and GM Matthew in a battle for 6th place? 6th and 7th these guys are in at the moment. Tidgney, just maybe a slight error. Coming out of Anthony Noakes, he's just lost a moment on GM Matthew there. Tidgney with much better tyres. He's just hit the wall there and taken damage to his left rear tyre. You won't be too pleased with that. Calcifer and Jammy in a little battle here as well. Where's Calcifer? These guys on lap 50. Coming towards the start-finish line. Calcifer just about a second and a half behind as they go into lap 51. These guys are a lap behind at the moment. Let's see if we can catch up with Tidgney and Matthew. Tidgney still behind. Matthew, of course, with the worn tyres. They're both on the softs, but Matthew's tyres slightly more worn. WRP just ahead of them. His tyres about the same, but WRP's carrying quite a bit more fuel. The hairpin here. Tam Hablo and Rocket having a battle here. I think we've got quite a few R35 Skyline fans in the room here. He is currently sitting in 11th place. Tam Hablo in 12th place, I believe, due to the tables being messed up. Both coming in through the tunnel here. Tam Hablo's got a bit of the slipstream, but it won't be enough to make a pass. These guys very close together now, though. Jammy and Calcifer still close in battle here. Calcifer just behind now, so I think, I'm not sure who was ahead there, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure who was winning this battle earlier. Either way, Jammy is ahead now. Ghost Driver obviously about to lap these guys, so they're going to both have to make way. Pasm just ahead there. Twissy currently back in second, so he was back down in fourth, I believe, due to pit strategy, but Ghost Driver and Gooners both seem to have pitted. Let's have a look at their tyres for a second, actually. Yeah, Gooners and Ghost Driver both on fresh tyres. Ghost Driver makes the pass of the traffic there. No change of positions, though, so Jammy manages to hold on to the position as he slows down. Ghost Driver with Gooners a little way ahead. Twissy, and there's Pasm, our race leader. Let's have a look at these guys battling it out back here. Is WRP still in the lead? WRP still in the lead. GM Matthew hanging on to 6th place. He is defending like a champ at the moment on those slightly worn tyres. Tidgney pushing him, trying to get him to make that mistake. I don't know if Tidgney's going to make it. I don't know if these guys are planning on one more stop, or if they were going to go the rest of the way on these racing softs. GM Matthew, a fellow Bristolian. I myself hail from Bristol in England, of course. I don't know if Matthew is from Bristol, but I know that he's at university at Bristol. So, thumbs up to him. Top man. Looks like Gooners has just gone into the pits there, was it? No, not Gooners. I don't know who's in the pits. Let's have a look. Looks like it's Twissy. Twissy in the pits. Okay, so we have Twissy in the pits. So, I said he was going onto the hards before, so I guess that must be his second set of softs. He definitely has to be on the hards now, otherwise there is some shenanigans going on. There they are, racing hards for Twissy. So, Twissy now on the hards, on the cold tyres. Someone of Twissy's skill should be able to control this car even on the colds, but it's still not an easy thing to do, and Gooners has gone past him during that pit. Gooners with very little fuel remaining, so I guess he's going to make that fuel last for his final pit stop. He's on the hards at the moment. I don't know if he's planning to make those hards last until the end of the race. There's only 20 laps to go, so I guess he's either got one more set of... I mean, I don't know quite what's going on. Gooners doesn't look like he's got the tyre wear strategy just right, because that amount of fuel isn't going to last him to the end. Someone's just span out in the thing. WRP just gone into the pits there. Let's see what Tidgney does. Tidgeney's gone past. Tidgeney's made the pass of GM Matthew. Matthew doesn't pit. Spurgey also doesn't pit. So those guys you can see all have one more stop to go by the looks of things. But Tidgeney still, unless he's going to make those softs last for a long time, which I don't think he will, they've all got one more pit stop to go. Tidgeney and Spurgey, slightly stronger tyres than Matthew. Spurgey will be looking to capitalise on that and try and make a pass on Matthew. Maybe if Matthew just leaves it one lap too late, he might make a mistake on those worn tyres, but he's racing well at the moment, so I can't say that's likely to happen, but Spurgey will be hoping it to happen, that's for sure. And he's closing the time well. Let's have a look at the splits between Spurgey and Matthew. Well, similar sector 1. Tidgeney actually breaks away there by shaving about 0.2 faster than the other two guys. And they've both gone into the pits there. Did Tidgeney pit? Tidgeney didn't pit, of course. So, now we've had... Let's see if WRP can get through those guys. He'll be looking to come out ahead of Matthew and Spurgey, who are both in the pits at the moment. WRP having pitted for the final time. He's got about 50 litres of fuel to go. Those guys just coming out of the pits now. WRP makes the pass. He's come out a long way ahead of those guys. Matthew just coming out now. Spurgey's made the pass on Matthew. Obviously he needed to put in less fuel. Matthew's gone with about 50 litres of fuel. He's on about 51, 52 litres of fuel for the last 19 laps. Should be able to make that last. Spurgey gone with a bit more. He's got about 60 litres. Tidgeney's going to have to pit one more time. He doesn't have enough fuel or tyres to make that stick to the end of the race. So we're expecting one more pit from Tidgeney. And WRP, who made up an absolute ton of ground on those guys who pitted a bit after him. Calcifer just making a mistake. WRP forced to go over there to avoid a collision. I think we'll allow him that one. Although WRP looks like he just came into the back of Calcifer there as Calcifer rejoined the track. So he's got some damage on both front tyres. That's just come off though. WRP back at full speed. But he made up a ton of ground there. So let's see the splits between him and Spurgey. WRP just crossing the line now. Spurgey followed by Matthew crossing the line at that stage there. We don't get splits, do we? We don't get splits. That's not very helpful. Pasm is the only one on lap 63 at the moment. So he is ahead of Gunas by about the length of a pit stop. Twissy has made the pass on Gunas as well. Twissy won't be stopping again, so he's going to be looking to make what looks like about 45 litres of fuel last the rest of the race. He's on the racing hards until the end. Pasm also on the racing hards, almost identical fuel there. Gunas on the perfectly fresh tyres, again identical fuel. So those guys look like they've got their fuel strategy nailed down. Current best lap, let's have a look. Our best lap is Gunas with a 1:09 flat. Very fast lap. Tam Hablo with the second fastest lap actually. Dr. Orp, as some people may know him on GTP, with a 1 minute 9.270. Pasm with a 1:09.282. Twissy 1:09.335. Tidgeney 1:09.894. WGE, who's back in 13th at the moment. Or, sorry, I should say 14th, because the leaderboards are messed up. Dr. Watson, of course, is actually ahead of Calcifer. But, or even, yeah, he is. Dr. Watson is in 12th at the moment. God, this is so confusing. There we go. So Tidgeney made his pit. Spurgey right behind him. Here we go. So this is going to be a battle to the end now. Spurgey just behind Tidgeney. But he's carrying a lot more fuel. And Tidgeney has managed to get onto the soft tyres. So he's saved his second set of softs to the end of the race. Tidgeney on the soft, fresh tyres and less fuel. Spurgey with the hards. Slightly more worn. And he's got more fuel. So he's going to struggle to make those lap times up on Tidgeney. Both of these guys, of course, very fast. But Tidgeney looking the more likely to come out ahead here in 4th place. WRP in 5th place, just up ahead of them. Those guys just coming into the swimming pool area now, coming past Tabak. He's just behind Gunas, who's a lap ahead. But this is going to be an intense battle for the last 15 laps between Tidgney and Spurgey. Tidgney still holding off Spurgey here. Although we've got some traffic coming up. WGE just ahead of these guys. They'll both want to get past him cleanly here, otherwise this could cause a problem. Look how close they are now as they come up Beau Rivage. And WGE just slows down, lets them pass. There we go, the battle continues. Let's have a look from Spurgey's point of view. The hairpin, of course, one of the most difficult corners of the entire calendar, I might even say. I believe it's the slowest corner out of any track in the real life F1 calendar. The slowest corner. And when you go that slowly, because these cars are all based on downforce, and when you go that slowly you don't have any downforce, and the handling is so difficult to make that turn at a good speed. It is really not an easy thing to do. I can tell you that. I practiced this a few laps before deciding not to run it, and that corner is not easy at all. You can kind of, there's a couple ways to take it. Either you just go full lock to the left, get it perfect on the apex, and you can just about slide round. Otherwise you can kind of hit the throttle and just rev the engine, and you get a bit of oversteer in the car. These cars of course have a bit of oversteer at slower speeds, and you kind of spin the car round the corner and you make the hairpin that way, but obviously that is a little bit risky. Tidgney has indeed pulled away from Spurgey. In fact, he is catching up with WRP. WRP's tyres, of course, a little bit more worn, and he's on the hards, so Tidgney might have just hit perfect with his strategy if he can make a pass on WRP and close that gap further. Let's see if we can get a split time on them. I don't think we can because they're a lap down, but let's have a look at their sector times. WRP had 18.8 in the first sector, Tidgney 2/10 up in the first sector and 2/10 up on the second, so currently gaining 4/10 just in the first two sectors, and let's see what we get on the final split time. WRP gets a 1 minute 10.7, Tidgney a 1 minute 10.1, so he's 6/10 faster per lap here, closing in very quickly on WRP. Battle for 5th place right now, that is. Let's take a look at GTP Rocket for a little while. We haven't seen much of him. Currently in 10th place behind Tam Hablo. They're on the same lap. Tam Hablo is currently coming out of Anthony Nogue, so he's just about to finish the lap. Rocket about a sector down at the moment. He's just coming out of Piscine there. Heading down towards Rascasse. See if he's got anything to say for himself. Hold on a moment. Here we go. So GTP Rocket, some of you may know him as R35 Skylon on GT Planet. Started life on Gran Turismo, the original, as many of these guys will have done. And he's another Driving Force GT guy. More evidence that you don't need a super expensive wheel to be fast at this game. And he just oversteers into the wall there. He'll be looking to get quickly onwards. Who's that behind him? Is that Gunas behind him? It's Gunas. So Gunas, fortunately, not in a battle with anyone, as he just oversteers a little bit too much on the hairpin there and ends up face first in the wall. Unfortunately, these cars can reverse. He manages to rescue himself from that situation, didn't lose too much time. Coming through the chicane there, WRP doing his best to maintain a gap between himself and Tidgney. Tidgney trying to close the gap between himself and WRP whilst maintaining a distance between himself and Spurgey, who's not far behind still, coming out of the swimming pool. Heading back down towards the start-finish line. Anthony Nogues there is the final turn. You kind of dip down the hill and you've got to dodge the barrier on the right-hand side. It's a pretty scary one. I don't like that turn. But don't think anyone's really had a problem with it in this race. Took part in the Ronin GT Touring Car and the Ronin GT Subortia Cup over on Ronin GT. Said he won them both this year, so he's been having a good run. Said the competition's not quite as hot as it is over here on GT Planet though. In the WRS, I would say one of the finest competing guys. I mean, obviously there's some great leagues on GT Planet, places like Pure. In fact, Dr. Watson, this is a good tie-in. Dr. Watson is one of the founding members of the Pure League. Not too slow himself. He's down in 11th, I think, or 12th. The table's messed up. Not too slow himself, but he's one of the founding members of Pure. So, a big thumbs up to him. Obviously, that is a massive racing league on GT Planet. Let's catch up with WRP here. Still managing to hold off Tidgney. Looks like actually Tidgney's dropped a little way back. Look at the fuel now, it's starting to run low. Tidgney just a bit behind him. Gooner's very little fuel left. Tidgney even less. I mean Twissy has him just enough. Be interesting to see if this is enough. Let's keep an eye on Twissy now. He is very low on fuel as we come into the last lap and a half. Very little fuel. I'd say 5 litres, maybe. We'll see if he can make it last anyway. Obviously you can change settings on the fly. Things like brake balance and ABS. He may be looking at his fuel now and adjusting some settings, going into fuel saving mode. I mean, he's never gonna catch Bart here. Let's have a look at his sector times, Twissy. Lapping slow 111s at the moment. There's 11.7. Gooner's last lap was a 10.3. So Gooner's catching him at a very fast rate, but he's not going to catch him. Twissy is on the last lap. And Pasm there, coming into the last lap. On his last lap. Here we go, coming into the end. And there we go. Pasm crosses the line in first place. We have winner number 1 of the GP, and sadly I can't spectate any further. Let's see if I can do this real quick. I don't know. I was going to get a checkered flag for you guys, but I lost it. Twissy comes in second, 15 seconds exactly behind, so he made his fuel last in the end. Gooner's comes in third place, plus 28. He finishes in 1 hour 37 minutes. Ghost Driver was in 4th place fairly solidly. Let's see if he can make that stick. Of course, we didn't get to see the fuel calculations at the end. As far as I could see, no one had too little though. Except from maybe Tidgney, I don't know. Oh no, because he pitted again, didn't he? That's right. There we go, Ghost Driver comes in with a 1 hour 37 and 31 seconds. So he's about a minute behind the race leader in 4th place. Let's see then if WRP manages to stick 5th place or if Tidgney took him on the last lap. Of course, our tables are messed up. Apparently WRP currently running in 10th, but that is not correct. We're looking for a time now from WRP. Let's see if it comes in, unless that's glitched as well, I don't know. Hopefully it'll show it correctly as he comes in. I can't guarantee it though. Here we go. It will be close, whatever it is. I reckon there'll be a second or two between them, at most. There it is. WRP comes in, and 1 second behind him. Tidgeney, very close finish there, but WRP gets 5th place. Tidgeney 6th. Spurgey 5 seconds behind him in 7th, I should say. Spurgey finishes 7th, 5 seconds behind Tidgeney. Matthew then, 10 seconds behind Spurgey, a great finish for him. Let's see who's going to finish. There's only 35 seconds left on the time limit. Some of these guys are a whole lap behind, so they won't all be able to finish. Normally the race finish time is set to about 200 or 175% of the average lap time. So we get about a lap and just over a lap, nearly 2 laps of time, so hopefully some of these guys will be able to get a time on the board. There it is, Tam Hablo gets in with 2 minute 42, so he was about 40 seconds behind Matthew there. Let's see if Rocket can get in. 5 seconds to go. I don't know how far back he was. Looks like he's not going to manage to get a time on the board. Doesn't quite, but it finishes there with Rocket in 10th, Jamie 11th, Calcifer, WGE. We want to thank everyone for watching the race anyway. It's been good fun. I hope, good race for everyone there. Special congratulations to Pazem Bart for a brilliant qualifying run yesterday and an absolutely perfect race today, finishing in 1st. Let's have a look at those results then. So 1st place we have Pazem, 2nd Twissy, 3rd Gooners. So a big congratulations to our podiums there, Pazem, Twissy and Gooners. Ghost Driver in 4th, WRP 5th, I think he'll be very pleased with that. Tidgeney in 6th, didn't quite close the gap, only a second between him. Then Spurgey 7th, Matthew 8th, Tam Hablo 9th, Rocket 10th, Jamie 11th, Calcifer 12th, WGE 13th, I think he'll be quite disappointed with that given his starting position. Dr. Watson in 14th, and RPH in a respectable last place. Let's not take anything away from it. Just to be here takes a good amount of skill. But that concludes our race today anyway. We'll be making sure we set that replay will be about 10 gigabytes. I do want to thank everyone for coming along. Anyone who's not involved in GT Planet, great forum, great leagues to join. Not just WRS, but there's some great leagues, but obviously the best league, WRS, is a great league, and I highly recommend for anyone who isn't part of the WRS and who wants perfect, clean, fast-paced racing, weekly races, weekly time trials, special events, special series, the whole shebang. WRS is your place. You know where to find us. Don't forget that I stream every Wednesday the weekly races that we have here in WRS, so if you ever fancy tuning in for some nice weekly racing, Wednesday is your day. Anyway, I think, drink or not, my throat is coming to an end. So I'm going to we'll finish up today on a high that was.